Cocoon Syndrome. There exists a cocoon phenomenon where people from oppressed groups develop such self-hate that they no longer identify themselves as part of that group. This video is the conclusion of a doctoral thesis by a psychologist who hopes that this paper will be published in journals and recognized as a severe psychological condition. He writes, "The cocoon syndrome is similar to Stockholm syndrome, where the abused person has love and sympathy for their abuser. Under cocoon syndrome, the oppressed loves their oppressor more than they love themselves or people that look like them. Years of oppression, brutality and trauma inflicted upon their people gets carried in their genes, and that generational trauma becomes part of their DNA as a post-traumatic condition. And centuries of being cocooned in a dehumanizing environment creates a deep psychological trauma which causes a fracturing and fragmenting of the mind. And this fracturing creates an illusion of inclusion. So those suffering from cocoon syndrome have a desperate need to be loved, valued and accepted by their abuser. And in their broken mind, they turn in on and against themselves, developing a deep self-hate and desperately want to be just like and accepted by their oppressor. Now, cocoon syndrome has these specific identifiers. A cocooner will only accept as truth the utterances of his oppressor. They will reject any factual and actual criticism of the oppressor, will never offend or displease his abuser, and will laugh and joke with them, even when they're being ridiculed. They will staunchly defend their abuser against any criticism, and the cocooner's sole objective is to gain the approval of his oppressor, to be validated and accepted by the same people who hate his kind. And to that extent, the cocooner mimics his oppressor, speaks in exactly the same tone, and says exactly what his oppressors say on particular subjects. For example, the cocoon will say, "Slavery was history, it's in the past, let's move on." Or, "We can't blame people today for the institution of slavery." Or, "Britain is not a racist country, it's multicultural." And finally, if Britain was racist, why would it let in so many foreigners? You see, a cocoon holds the same views on foreigners or immigrants as those who hate foreigners and immigrants coming to live in their country. And this is because cocoons no longer perceive themselves as belonging to the outsider group. They have the illusion of inclusion. And this analogy encapsulates the phenomenon. Eagles are captured by vultures, and for generations the eagles are abused and traumatized. The eagle is denigrated and told it is less than the vulture. The vulture knows it's a lesser scavenger bird and hates the superiority and magnificence of the eagle. But it does everything to make the eagle believe that the vulture is superior and the eagle inferior. After generations of being captured and cocooned in a brutal environment, the eagle not only forgets what it is, it wants to be a vulture and accepted by the vulture. The cocoon takes on the culture of the vulture, and it no longer identifies as what it is, it now wants to be accepted as a vulture by the vultures. And this is a twisted form of cultural appropriation because of the mind's discombobulation. The fundamental and underlying syndrome associated with the cocoon is a firmly held belief that by cocooning and behaving like his oppressor will acknowledge him as one of them. The psychological damage inflicted over centuries is so absolute that the mind of the cocooned is shattered. It's fragmented, distorted and disturbed, such that their overwhelming desire is to be liked by those who despise them. And clinical studies of those suffering from cocoon syndrome report there is no treatment or remedy to rectify the condition, because the psychological abuse, the miseducation and the indoctrination, and being taught to love those who hate them, the systematic denial of equality in society, of equal rights and opportunities, and of freedom of expression, has created minds so shattered, they've convinced themselves of two things. First, the belief they are not a member of the oppressed group, they no longer identify with people of colour. And second, that if they act, speak, and hold the same views as their oppressor will accept them as one of them. And clinical studies have proven that any attempt to reason with a cocooner is futile, and it will be fiercely resisted by them. They will reject and dismiss any attempt to shift them from their illusions, because they have the illusion of inclusion, because the disturbia in their mind is absolute. And that ends the dissertation. Thank you for watching. Please share widely. Please subscribe to my channel. More videos coming soon.